Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Columbus This Week with Eric and Trevor, bringing you all the best news in Columbus and around the world, and in particular, the great state of Ohio and city of Columbus. And with that being said, it's pretty cold out, Trevor, but I absolutely love it.
Can we just go back to your order really quick? You went Columbus and then the world, and then back to Ohio and then back to Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how things go sometimes.
I mean, it's cold, but I like the cold.
Yeah, oh man, so girlfriend and I went to Festivus on Saturday, which it's in Franklinton, they have like a big art building over there, or it's like art studios and stuff. So we went and checked that out, got some like salsa, got some other stuff, and then like we had all the snow come in, like just come out of nowhere on Saturday, and it was like, then we went to Strongwater, and like they have these huge glass windows in front of so like there's the bar, right? And so Strongwater is like they sell spirits and stuff and some food.
Yeah.
They have these like gigantic, like, I don't know, 8 by 5 foot windows or something. And then all the snow was coming down, and it was just like perfect outside. And there was like nobody really in there. It was great. So, how was your weekend?
Let's see. What did I do this weekend? I had no idea. God damn. Just is not coming to me what I did this weekend.
Okay.
Well, that's fine.
Anyway,
good radio content.
Yeah. Okay. So we saw the meteoric rise of Bitcoin this weekend? This past Thursday, Friday, something like that.
I
went from around $10,000 to $19,000 in like less than 6 hours?
Oh yeah, it was like 2.5 hours. I remember, like, me and a couple of friends were just work friends, right? And we were just watching Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and
that's what I was doing too.
And then we're like, all right, we better just go to lunch because we're not getting anything productive done anyways.
Yeah.
And so we just like went to Chipotle, and the price just keeps rising, and it gets to like 19K.
Yeah.
And then it starts plummeting down. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. And so
it goes down to like 15K.
Yeah. It sucked because I was trying to sell at like 19K, and then Coinbase just kept crashing. They put a big hold on
that happened.
All the transactions. And
so speaking of that, actually happened to Litecoin today. Litecoin, they froze transactions.
Jumped up over almost 100% today, I think.
Yeah, it was in like a 48-hour period. It basically tripled. But Coinbase also stopped transactions today
for both Ethereum and Litecoin.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Ethereum one too.
Oh, I didn't. Whatever. They're depressing my investments. How dare they?
Yeah. All right. Well, the one good thing though is like if you do get the transaction through, like you get it at whatever transaction, like,
yeah, I mean,
whatever the time of buy or sell was. Yeah. So, but anyway, so Trevor, we had a follow up from last week's feature.
Oh yeah. So you remember Lindsay Shepard, right?
Yeah.
The
person we talked about for like 30 minutes.
Our brave, formidable TA.
Yeah.
Turns out one of her critics, a Canadian academic employee, was actually ousted from their university recently.
Oh, I wonder why.
So he attacked Shepard and basically called her alt-right. His name, by the way. So I really wish I was like making this up.
Yeah.
Or like I could, but his name is Mohammed Akbar.
Okay.
So he accused Lindsay Shepard of being alt-right, and it turns out, I guess he drew a lot of attention to himself, and
which is almost never a good idea unless you have your own podcast.
So turns out he's a big anti-Semite, and he's written a lot about sort of the problems of the Jews in Israel.
Oh wow!
And so Windsor University wasn't comfortable with that, and he was let go.
Well, that's good. I'm glad they got rid of that guy. Well,
so just wanted to follow up on that story.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that's like the exact kind of thing that would happen. You have this actual rational person engaging in lively discussion at university, presenting debates and differences of opinion, and then they're attracted by people who turn out to be racists and bigots and what have you. So okay, anyway, so moving on to events, there's a cool event, I think, at least, that's coming up. It is called the Give Back Columbus Give Back Holiday Celebration. and that will be at Woodlands Tavern, December 12th from 6 to 9, which is today. So get out there and go. Whoops. I forgot that it was today. I was planning on going. I thought it was Thursday. Okay, so
good job, Eric. Quality content brought to you by Columbus this week. Come to events that we've already.
So, well, you know what? You should just be waiting, just waiting for the podcast.
You should actually just be listening outside our door, ready to go to events.
Okay, so and things that are happening in the near future that is not the same day and stuff. There's so Brewdog and Canal Winchester, like their big brewery or whatever.
Yeah.
So on the 13th from 7 to 10, they have a beer tasting with their brewmaster, which might be kind of cool. You can learn a lot about beer, which I love. And finally, on December 15th, there's the 7th annual Ugly Sweater Party at Marshall's in Grandview. That's the 15th from 5 to midnight. So wear your ugly sweater or your normal clothes, whichever one, whichever you want to wear, I guess, and go to that. So
man, the Ugly Sweater Party was like a master stroke of marketing genius by somebody. I bet somebody just had like a bunch of terrible Christmas sweaters that they got like on huge discount. And they're just like, got it.
Yeah, everybody's got to wear these.
I'm gonna make a mint.
Okay. So in construction, in our construction roundup, so I just have one big story, and this is a big story. So we've talked, we've spoken about this a few times. So the Scioto Peninsula, like right behind Kosai, they're planning on redeveloping that to make it awesome instead of not awesome. And this week, the city of Columbus selected they actually selected a company called Buckingham, based out of Indianapolis, to do the master development plan for the 21-acre site. So they're looking at these are estimates, but up to 1,700 total housing units, apartments and condos, 800,000 square feet of office space, 150,000 square feet of restaurant space, and a hotel with 150 rooms. And the original proposal, some people were disappointed about this, and I was too initially, but now I'm not so much. But people were kind of disappointed because they went from having these 30-story towers to like the 11 and 12-story buildings as part of the plan. I mean, that could change, and you still could get 30-story towers or whatever, what have you. But I actually prefer like the mid-rise building because I like skyscrapers because usually the alternative is the suburbs. But if I had my preference, every city in Columbus would look a lot more like DC versus like Chicago or something like that. So, but anyway, so the actual development itself is supposed to go, all the costs and everything are projected to be $500 million. So.
Yeah, I mean this is big development. I hope they finish it quickly. I've probably said this before, but I'm kind of right now I'm kind of bearish on construction just because property values keep rising, and Columbus is in a really not ideal position when a downturn sweeps through the country, right?
I mean they're better off than some, like a lot of other cities, because of the diversity of the economy.
Well, yeah. So the like when I'm talking about this like a market wide downturn, though, what I'm saying is it's not with. If you start growing,
if the crew leave and then everybody's like really down on Columbus.
I mean, so it's more like if you're in the middle of developing stuff and then the market goes bad, that becomes a liability for you,
right? And
I'm just really hoping. So every time you bring up more construction stuff, it's just like, oh God, I hope this project finishes before some disaster
before the end of the world. Yeah. Well, hopefully it does. But they are estimating it to take about 10 years, so hopefully nothing bad happens in the next 10 years. But
dude, there's definitely going to be a downturn in the next 10 years. Like, you just have to plan for it at that point. I mean, that's like the average market cycle.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all I had for the construction news, just because it's one big thing, and then there's other stuff going on, but we'll save that for next week.
All right, let's move on to the 2 minutes hate. So first up in the 2 minutes hate, I'm actually going to make Eric hate everything forever for the next 80 minutes or whatever.
Okay.
So Eric, I'm going to show you a Google Maps image.
Oh man, I can already feel my blood boiling, and I don't even know what it is.
The fastest route for somebody to drive to like their next door neighbor's house.
Okay.
In I think Miami, and of course I'll link this in the show notes.
So that's the fastest route to drive to their neighbor's house?
Yes, like they share a land border.
Well, why would they drive to their neighbor's house?
Well, I mean, there's like a fence, but what I'm saying is like those two houses are right next to each other. Like their land touches, and that's if you're driving, that's the closest. Like this 20-minute drive is that takes multiple miles. This is the quickest route from one to the other.
How is that
via
possible?
car?
How is that even? Why can't they just turn right and then?
Because a lot of suburbs are designed like this on purpose, where there's a lot of roads that purposely do not connect in order to keep.
Oh, so they have a land border where the road doesn't connect.
Correct.
Oh my God.
So this
Jesus. Oh my God. This is awful. And then what's stupid is people probably make that drive instead of just walking next door. It's Florida, so it's full of fat old people.
I'll do the 30s radio thing and describe this. Oh God, I apparently activated my phone and said something.
Okay.
So
hey Siri.
Oh
there she goes. Okay.
Okay. So anyways, to describe what we're looking at, we're basically looking at a 20-minute drive from one house to another through like these crazy winding suburbs in this giant like semicircle.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that's the suburbs for you. So I mean it makes sense if you think about just the suburbs. Like things are supposed to not make sense.
I think you told me once though that you should never ever build connecting roads because it just causes more traffic. So,
yes, but not like in the suburbs. The suburbs are like it's like their own universe of stupidity. So things like normal things that make sense don't apply there.
I just thought you might be interested in that little
yeah.
little tidbit.
Well, I mean, we can just go ahead and end the show there because that's all I'm going to be able to think about is how stupid that is.
All right. Well, there's 2 minutes of Eric.
That's it. That's Columbus this week. See you guys next week.
It'd be funny if I played the outro music right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going. That was like a minute. So
yeah. Next up in the 2 minutes hate, I've lost my show notes. Fuck. I'm gonna have to cut some of this. Maybe actually we'll replace it with the outro for a little bit. It'll be funny.
Yeah.
All right. So next up in the 2 minutes hate, college Republicans were ousted from a Fordham University coffee shop.
Good. Republicans shouldn't drink coffee.
That is a fair point. Nobody should drink coffee, really, especially not us.
Yeah, definitely not us.
But
while we sip coffee.
So they were kicked out of a coffee shop for basically, I would say dressing like idiots. But
okay.
But essentially, I mean, they were kicked out because it's a safe space, and the I guess person who was working the shop didn't like their opinions or whatever.
Okay.
So ordinarily I'd be fine with this, right? I mean, if somebody's like if the person working the shop doesn't want you there, you're trespassing.
Yeah.
The problem is that like this is a university-owned shop and they pay tuition.
Yeah, so you can't now I mean there's a line, but I guess I don't know what they were doing, but
like they were literally just sitting there. So I think what they were actually doing is they were purposely trying to like provoke the business by existing because it's like a liberal university and they're college Republicans.
Yeah.
I think that's what was happening. But
well, it sure worked because they provoked the people working there and then they got kicked out, I guess, so.
Yeah, and then, it was I guess they got brought on the Fox News or whatever. By the way, these guys are the biggest fucking goofballs in Jesus. I can't stand the way these people dress. Like, this is completely an aside, but they're wearing, like, suspenders and shit. It really bothers me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, they got to perpetuate stereotypes, right?
It looks so dumb.
Yeah.
Suspenders and bow ties. It's like they're like a walking meme. But that said, you can't just, like, kick them out of their coffee shop for their fashion choices.
True, yeah. Especially, I mean, if they're paying tuition, it's like their coffee shop.
By the way, the most ridiculous part of the story is that apparently Fordham University costs $70,000 a year.
Whew. Wow. So in case you don't know that, you can so if you manage to get into Harvard to go like get your MBA or something like that, the total tuition cost is like $140. So that's like 2 years of undergrad at this school.
But you get to live in New York City, man. This is a university in New York City.
Well, you could just go to Columbia, the same price. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any. Okay, keep going because we're gonna go like 30 minutes on the 2 minutes of hate.
All right, sorry. Next up, Canada is currently debating a bill in their in their parliament about whether or not to require marijuana owners to keep their marijuana in a locked safe.
That's stupid. Next. Why don't they keep their alcohol in a safe too?
I mean, I think they have to keep their guns in the safe already. This is just sort of adding on to that, but
anything that's like undesirable, so they have to keep
keep your cigarettes in the safe.
Yeah, cigarettes have to be in there. Alcohol.
I mean, the reason cited is
what about Tim Hortons? They have to keep Tim Hortons in the safe.
Keep all your trans fats in the safe.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason cited is to protect children because we had
that one baby overdosed
that OD'd on marijuana, and now we're trying to pass legislation to safe up the marijuana.
Yeah. Okay, that's
all
dumb.
Right.
Next
up in 2 minutes hate. The IOC has banned Russia from the Winter Olympics.
Good. They're a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah. So
and fake newsers.
For those of you who don't know, back in what was it, 2012 or 2014, the Sochi Olympics, Winter Olympics. I think it's 2014.
It's every 4 years, so it would have been 2014.
Okay. Yeah, because it's 2018. Yeah. That's right. So 2014 Winter Olympics, they pulled this ridiculous, labyrinthine, crazy plot to escape drug testing. So they what they did is they built a false room that nobody knew existed in the facility, and then they drilled a hole into the room where they knew the testing would happen.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would discreetly slide the original samples into the hole, and then you have the other room where they basically are they're matching salt levels and doing all this stuff to take clean pee and replace with the athletes' pee because they got months in advance. They had the athletes plan this out, and they got samples of the athletes' pee.
Jesus.
And then did all the pH balancing and salt balancing and stuff.
What's the point though? Why cheat? It doesn't. They're almost always going to get caught
to get the gold medals, man.
Yeah. Okay.
So, anyways,
great logic.
So, anyways, they pulled off this great. I mean, it was almost like a heist, like a big pee heist. So they pulled this off, but they got caught, and so now they can't go to the Olympics this upcoming Winter Olympics.
Well, that's what they get. Cheaters.
It's really unfortunate for them too, because the Winter Olympics are really where Russia does okay.
Which makes sense given that it's Russia.
Yeah, I mean they're no U.S. though.
True.
All right. Next up, and finally, we have a plea from our games journalists, which we talked about a little bit with Battlefront.
Yeah.
So this is coming from Kotaku. It might be time to rethink difficulty menus. So essentially, the idea is the difficulty menus are demeaning to people who play on easy.
Why? Why would that be demeaning to you? You just play on easy. I play on easy sometimes
because it's easy. You don't get it. It's not. You're basically making them feel bad because they're not playing on hard.
Who's making the who? Ugh.
Here's who's. You know who feels bad? The people who play on easy and then feel bad because their literal job is games journalists, and so they feel bad because they're not good.
Their goal is to review the game, not necessarily just the difficulty.
Well, you
have to get through the story, and if they're bad and they can't beat the game, maybe they should be game journalists then.
Well, that's being discriminatory. You shouldn't have to be good at games to be a games journalist.
Yeah, whatever.
Apparently, have you seen the video of this? I forget who it is. I think it's a Polygon journalist playing Doom.
No.
And just being completely awful and can't move or aim at all. and somebody set it to some wacky music, probably yakety sax or something, and it's just the most miserable thing. And then they play a clip of somebody from Nvidia, the company, just playing the game and
being
doing really cool shit.
That's funny.
It's a pretty great video. I'll actually put that in the show notes too. But that's it for the 2 minutes hate. So Eric, let's move on to Columbus News.
Okay, so the first serious news story we have, since the 2 minutes of hate is now over, is we talked about smart cities a little bit last week, and since then there have been some changes. So I'm gonna read off to you what the changes are. So they cut 4 projects, and then they've kind of tweaked and expanded some of the other projects. And so I'll list the 4 projects that were cut, and then I'll follow up with the projects that still exist, and then we could talk about those if need be. So Here goes. So the first project that was cut was the transit collision avoidance system, and the goal here was camera technology that the project was based on doesn't work in the dark. Oh well, I guess this is the reason. The camera. I can't. Oh wow, this is almost like worth laughing about. The traffic collision avoidance system. The camera technology that this project was based on doesn't work in the dark.
That happens a lot.
And most of the pedestrian or bike collisions with buses happen at night, as it turns out, according to Coda. So cameras apparently don't work in the dark. Therefore, bicyclists and pedestrians get killed by buses. So they cut that. They cut that project instead of trying to fix it.
Yeah, that's completely reasonable.
I mean, they gotta do stuff they can do, but it's like cameras don't work in the dark. Like really?
Well, the thing is, cameras don't work in the dark. Maybe
my camera works in the dark. Why don't they just strap a bunch of iPhones up everywhere?
Well, I mean, they could use LiDAR.
They could just use my iPhone. Like I'll even let them borrow it. They could just put it in front of the buses, and they just like, here's an iPhone. And like the iPhone use like face recognition. They can use.
I mean, doesn't
they can use the Face ID on the iPhone X and just like identify people?
I mean, doesn't the iPhone use non-vis spectrum? It has some non-vis spectrum lighting thing though.
Oh, I don't
because
know.
it uses it for like the facial recognition.
I don't know. I just like to joke and talk about iPhones.
Well, my point is like, I mean, if they're just trying to use cameras, things that are using photosensitive cells, it's not going to work at night. Like there are a number of technologies where it does work, like.
Night vision works at night.
Yeah, remember the way back? It was one of our first episodes. We talked about the mosquito zapping, like the
I remember the story, but I don't remember
the laser mosquito fence. That works. That sees mosquitoes at night, but
yeah.
you don't rely on like color and light sensitivity at night. It just doesn't.
I'm not saying they should have.
Work.
Okay. Anyway, so the next project that was axed it's called delivery zone availability. So existing regulations allow anyone to use delivery zones, not just commercial truck drivers. So that's interesting. Maybe I want to go make some deliveries. So it was decided that an app, like an application, like an iOS app, alerting drivers that a space is available to unload at a certain building would not be needed, especially if the spot can't be reserved. Yeah, an app for everything, don't need that. Smart streetlights. The city's Department of Utilities is already working to upgrade the streetlights citywide to LED. So basically, it's kind of like double using that.
Left hand doesn't know what right hand's doing.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. And then enhanced permit parking. This is another initiative that is being handled by a separate city development. So I'm fine with all those. I mean, it seems like there's some cases where they had some overlap, so they decided to focus their efforts on things that were unique. Cool with that. All right, so here are the seven initiatives that they're still kind of going with. So the first one is the connected electric autonomous vehicle. So the Easton area driverless shuttle falls under this project. Fleet of vehicles that would operate in mixed traffic and potentially connect to the new Cleveland Avenue bus rapid transit line. And some of their routes would connect to area employers, while others would focus more on the needs of shoppers. So I think the idea was to get people in areas that don't really have cars a way to get to Easton, which I'm sure there's a lot of people at Easton who are not in favor of that. Truck platooning is the second project. Would equip trucks coming and going from Rickenbacker International Airport with smart technology so that they could travel very close to each other, resulting in less fuel.
What?
I don't trust that whatsoever, but okay. It's called truck platooning. So the idea is you just have them drive. So there's drag, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is like to do that, but with big semi trucks and closer together. Okay. Okay. I'm like, it's shocked that that's even on the table.
Yeah, it doesn't
like
seem
who
like,
even cares?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like like it should be a city initiative, really.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with smart cities. It's just that's dumb cities. Okay. Connected vehicle environment expands the connected vehicle idea to buses, emergency vehicles, city fleets, and private cars.
What's a connected vehicle?
It's a vehicle that's connected to like the Internet of Things, man. Like GE,
the
Internet of Things.
So when I hear connected vehicle, I should hear hackable vehicle.
Yeah.
All right.
But it makes
so just read this story, but replace connected with hackable.
Okay, so we'll try again. So hackable vehicle environment expands the hackable vehicle idea to buses, emergencies. I think we might have to cut our laughing. All right. Expands the hackable vehicle idea to buses, emergency vehicles, city fleets, and even private cars. This makes things like traffic signal prioritization possible. Okay. That is funny. Okay, so the next one, the fourth one here is multimodal trip planning and common payment system. Customers could plan trips and pay for Coda, Car2Go, KoGo, which is the bicycles, like they have the bike stations, Uber or Lyft within a single application. I like that idea. There's no point, like nothing wrong with that in my mind. However, now I don't know if this helps low income residents, but the idea of paying for everything with one application is kind of appealing. Smart mobility hubs focused on the Cleveland Avenue corridor in Linden. That initiative would add Wi-Fi connected to kiosks to certain CMAX stops. Okay. Mobile assistance for people with cognitive disabilities. I don't even need to read the description. Well, actually, maybe I should, because it says a mobile app aimed at individuals that don't use or aren't eligible for CODA's paratransit service but have difficulty navigating the bus system on their own. I feel like an app's not an answer, but I am in favor of helping people. And then event parking management. The system would make it possible to search for and reserve parking spots for major events. So to be honest with you, Trevor, I am really disappointed with these projects. I don't think that they're good. I'm like, I can't believe I just read this and these were the ideas.
3 words. Ready?
No.
Waste of money.
Yeah. That's what it's starting to look like.
It's really unfortunate. Maybe another city should have won.
Yeah, I mean, if
this is what we're bringing to the table. The other problem is the good ideas in Columbus are basically going to private capital, unfortunately. You don't see a lot. I feel like you don't see a lot of like top sort of ideas and talent ever go to like government ideas.
Yeah.
It just never happens.
Well, part of the problem is I think that full disclosure, I actually applied for a job with Smart Cities once, and it was like for electric vehicle ideas or basically stuff like that. So I actually thought I had some good ideas, and I had just thought of them while I was like applying, but nobody ever got back to me, and then I don't know who they hired, right? But I mean, at least I'm like an engineer. When I look at like the roster of people who might be working on some of these initiatives, not just Smart Cities, but in general, they tend to not be engineers. They tend to be people who want to get the project name on their resume, and then
there's a lot of social cause people.
Yeah.
Is a trend I've seen.
Right.
I mean, like overwhelmingly, even it's almost. Yeah. I'd say it's almost like 50%.
Yeah. So I'm pretty like, so here, as an example, like we were talking about like okay, so think about the people who want to buy electric cars. It's people like maybe me, for example. And so you live downtown, and what's the biggest obstacle for buying electric car?
You can't charge it.
Right. So what's the solution to that? I don't know. Put electric vehicle charging stations like on, put them where all the meters are, or give, like they're doing this $500 million Scioto Peninsula development. Perfect opportunity to put in these smart meters, or these electric charging meters everywhere. What are they going to do? Not do that. Why? Because they're not thinking.
Hey Eric, that's not smart. There's no app involved.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm being disingenuous, but I'm partially serious.
Yeah, I mean, like 3 of those ideas were apps. Like, stop trying to just throw an app at basically their idea is to throw an app at everything or throw it at poor people.
Well, so here's what I would say. That one, you want to build infrastructure. That's a reliable idea. That's a good idea.
Right.
That's also an expensive idea, and you can't sell it.
Everybody wants something that scales or whatever.
I mean, the truth of the matter is people want to do what everybody in Silicon Valley does. They want to solve easy problems, and they want to see a huge ROI on it.
Yeah. Which you're not going to do in infrastructure.
Is not. It's just.
Right.
I mean, that's why people don't want to do infrastructure.
Yep. All right. So I was pretty disappointed with those. I was good with the projects they cut, but
you think they should have cut them all?
Yeah, I think they should cut them all. Frankly, and probably give the money to Austin. So, well, I mean,
we're
if Austin's getting the crew, they're getting the Amazon headquarters. They should have smart cities too.
You know what? We're gonna basically
Austin this week.
Yeah, this is a pro Austin podcast, and once Austin has all the nice stuff, Eric and I are just gonna move. That's actually our long term strategy.
We're playing the long game here. Okay, so in not really related news, but kind of related news. So Trevor, the city of Columbus is one of the largest cities in the United States that still does what's called at-large voting.
Yeah, that's hot garbage.
Yeah, so basically what this means is people across the entire city vote for each city council member. So a few months ago, we did a podcast, and we did an episode, and there was a bill up that was trying to basically like create districts for the city. So instead of if I live in German Village, I can vote for a city council member, and those city council members represent the whole city versus I would vote for like the German Village member who has my interests at heart, etc.
If I remember correctly, there was a big pushback against this move, and I think one of the problems is, or at least one of the problems people have, is there's no good way to do districtization where the party that currently has all the seats keeps all the seats.
Right. What I consider fortunate news, the NAACP is planning on they're not planning, but they wrote a letter, and they have substantial concerns. This is from a City Lab article that the way that the city does at-large electoral voting may be in violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the reason for that, Trevor, is. So actually, what's interesting? So the NAACP is for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and 4 of our, I think 7 representatives are actually African American. So normally I don't know, a lot of times you don't associate that, like you would think like, oh, they're not, so I don't think race is a factor here, but I guess is what I'm trying to say. But the concern here is that, so when they have these with these at-large seats, what ends up happening is, and this is what concerned the NAACP. So a council member, what they'll do is they'll resign. Like if they know they're going to be done, they'll resign before their term ends, and then what this actual council does is it fills the vacant seat until the next election. So this is actually, believe this, dude, I can't believe this, but according to the NAACP in this City Lab article, and I'm quoting here, this is how every black city council member has originally obtained their seat for decades, with just one exception who obtained their seat via election in 1991 as a Republican. The entire city council and the mayor are all Democrats. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I mean, it's
and even the NAACP says it's like, hey, we're concerned about that because you can't just resign and then the next person gets your seat and then you campaign hard for them and then it's been, it's like Democrats forever.
I mean, the people who are okay with this, I would have to ask them if, because obviously there's a huge like advantage here. Yeah. I would have to ask them if they would be comfortable applying the same logic to like the SCOTUS.
Yeah.
How would you feel, Eric, if like when one of the justices wanted to retire, instead of like having to appoint a new one through the presidential process, they just like appointed their own successor?
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't quite the same, but I mean, it's largely handpicking your successor and what's supposed to be.
Well, what I'm saying is it somewhat subverts the democratic process,
right? And then so the issue here is that basically you get people who toe the party line for the Democrats, which would not be me. I'm probably a Democrat if you're going to put me between the two, but I'm definitely not a party line tower. And so people who would be like me, I guess, and Republicans are basically severely disadvantaged by the fundraising and name recognition afforded by the incumbents. So it's like they're kind of just picking their successors. They're all on their team, and they just keep doing it over and over again. So that's not good for the city at all. And it would also make sense as the reason why the representation by district failed. So
I mean, let's be honest though. Even aside from this issue, just wipe out the 4 to 7 counselors or whatever.
Yeah.
Districtization is still a really good idea for Columbus.
Yeah, I think so too. It makes sense.
I think we should be choosing our own representatives, and the smaller and the more narrow we can get that group down,
Right.
the better.
Right. So I mean, if you live in like Bexley or something, I don't know, or
Bexley's too small, but
Yeah.
like Bexley plus Whitehall should be able to choose their own representative.
yeah, exactly. So
Gahanna should be able to choose their own representative.
Right,
Westerville.
right. Well, I don't think. I mean,
Oh, those are
but
probably.
you know what I mean. Like
those are
if-
considered separate incorporations. That's
yeah.
right. Places like Salem Village, though.
Right.
Yeah.
German Village is in its own. Bexley was the first thing that came to mind, I guess, but I guess I meant more like
Yeah.
the short north,
Yeah.
like that or whatever. So
Campus.
yeah, campus, yeah.
Campus elects like a 22-year-old.
That'd be good. I mean, at least you're getting some sort of diversity.
I mean, yeah, I would be fine with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
let people elect who they want.
Okay, so Trevor, I don't know if you know this, but we do have a new hashtag now. So we went from hashtag save the crew to hashtag.
I don't want to hear it. Stop. Don't.
What?
I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of hashtags in general.
No, this is it, Trevor. It's hashtag sue the crew. So
we went from save the crew to fuck the crew really quickly.
yeah. So well, I've been kind of anti-crew since they wanted to move.
Ship the crew.
Yeah, that's what
Screw the crew. Sue the crew.
Yeah, so now it's screw the crew. So the Ohio Attorney General has basically hinted that they're prepared to file a lawsuit. So, Trevor, do you remember when the Browns like left? I mean, not necessarily remember, but know of that like happening.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody was really angry about that. So they came up with a law, the Browns Act or the Browns Law or something like that. And what it says is if a city receives financial like incentives for like their stadium or something like that, they have to give 6 months notice and some other things. But the big one here is they have to give the city the opportunity to buy the team. So basically the Ohio Attorney General is like, yeah, well, maybe we'll just sue you guys and keep you here. So I think that's a pretty interesting development. Nothing else has come out of that yet, but
So I've read some expert legal opinions from people who actually have doctorates, unlike my uneducated ass.
Yeah.
And I think general consensus is basically that this lawsuit is nonsense.
yeah, I mean maybe, but
Well,
at least
here's what's stopping Precourt from just giving a number that people won't pay.
well he I don't think he can.
Why?
I mean, he has to like demonstrate that. So he has to open up his he'd have to actually open up his financial records.
Is that a part of the bill?
I can't tell you for sure, but if he wants to, so if they actually got sued and he wants to use the argument that I'm not making money here, then he would actually have to demonstrate that. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm not making money," and then move. Like in the court of law, they would say, "Okay, well, where are your financial records?" And then he'd actually have to open those up and then show that the crew's probably actually making money.
I think the other problem you run into is that to some extent this is an interstate transaction, and if the state of Ohio partakes in action that basically negatively affects another state, in this case financially, that's not gonna fly, right? Like if it goes to a federal,
it's also the Ohio law. So
well, if it goes to a federal court, it's very likely that they rule that unconstitutional. The federal court doesn't play well with fucking with other states. I guess ability to do business.
Well, see, but the issue is it also affects the state of Ohio's ability to do business because the state of Ohio and the city of Columbus put in financing for the stadium and they have this law in the books. Like if this law was here before the crew was. So
well, the way our government works though is when in doubt, like when there's a conflict between states, what happens is like you can't impose laws. Like it's not that by default you get to restrict everything. It's by default you can't restrict anything when the states are fighting, and this has happened all the time. Right? This is the reason that when you go and get fast food through a drive-through, you don't pay taxes on it.
Maybe. Let's see.
It's to prevent tariffization between the states. You can't just take a big old business chunk out of another state because they do a thing you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying for sure either way, but what I am saying is that it's interesting, and I hope they do sue them. So, just because I think it would be funny. I don't know. I mean, it's a state law regulating the relocation of professional sports. I don't think they would have put this law in the books. I mean, they're not going to pass. They're not going to pass a law that's like if it's clearly like not going to work.
I mean, here's the thing: if laws were always constitutional, there'd be no reason for a Supreme Court. The main job of the Supreme Court is basically to tell the states that their laws are dumb and unconstitutional, and occasionally to tell our national Congress that their laws are dumb and unconstitutional, and occasionally to tell the president.
Right. I mean, I agree. So, but I mean, what's going to happen if this moves to the Supreme Court? So, pre-court's not going to be able to move the team until then.
Okay, so you inconvenience.
So he has to spend a few years.
Actually,
it's not like it's going to go to the Supreme Court like the next day.
Actually, no, it's not. It won't go to the Supreme Court. It'll go to a district court.
Yeah, but even then, it's still not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll take that long. It'll be months, not years.
I don't think so. I think it's the state government, man. They can find a way to make it slow. So. Anyway, it was just interesting. I don't really care.
Man, imagine if the state
happens either way.
Imagine if the state got implicated in, because you're dealing with people who have real money, right? We're talking
like the state,
and also pre-court. We're talking with agents that have big money. What I'm saying is,
I wouldn't consider him like big money. I would consider like Peter Thiel big money or somebody like that. Like I don't think
he has hundreds of millions, right?
I don't think so. I don't think he's that rich.
Really?
I don't think so.
I thought the crew was valuated at over 100.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he has 100+ million.
Well, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it liquid, but if he owns that asset, he does.
Well, but it's not. I don't know if it's necessarily. It's owned by their pre-court sports ventures, not necessarily him. So it's owned by the company. But
what I'm saying is, like in this case, it's not just pre-court. It's the venture.
Yeah. Let me see if I can look it up while we're talking.
But anyways, my point is, You can't really do that legal bullying when both entities are huge. Like the issues take a while to work out, but if you're purposely trying to make a lawsuit go forever, you can be heavily punished by the court. And I think that's happened to Oracle a couple of times, because Oracle will try to, I don't know if you know this, but Oracle will try to really bully anyone smaller than them. But they can't really. If they try to do that to somebody like Google, there's no way in hell that's flying. The court will punish them because it's an army of lawyers versus another army of lawyers.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying I don't think he's so rich that he's. I just don't think he's that rich. But whatever.
I'm not saying he's as large as the state of Ohio, certainly, but I'm just saying he's not.
Well, see, this is the other thing though. So what I'll say here is I think what's important to note is you should not have publicly financed sports venues. So you don't get yourself in situations like this unless the public is going to own the entire thing. That's what I'll say is the result of this here.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Because like the Ohio State Buckeyes, they can't like move to Austin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same, but they can't.
I mean, it's a public university. It's similar.
Right.
I'm fine with that example.
Yeah.
All right,
okay, so moving on. So what do you think of this program, Trevor? So Franklin County Commissioners considering a free spay/neuter program for low-income pet owners. Apparently. So get this. I got stats for you. Did you know, Trevor, that one female dog and her offspring can produce 67,000 dogs in 6 years? Dude, 67,000 dogs.
I mean, so this is one of those things where you just take the numbers and you extrapolate them in a scenario that can never happen. So what they're doing is they're going to assume that, like, the dog day one gets pregnant and then has maximum litter size, and then
it's possible. What if you even did half of that? That's still like 30,000 dogs, dude.
But no.
But that's just one dog. Like what if it was just what if you had all the female dogs in Columbus, all of them that were like just having puppies and stuff, and like you get rid of all of them. And like none of them are, but then you have that one dog that's doing like the max babies. 60, we can't sustain this. It's unsustainable, Trevor. 67,000 dogs in 6 years.
No dog is doing the max babies. That's the thing. That's the thing.
No, but I'm saying if you took all dogs in the city of Columbus, all of them, and you were having 10,000 new dogs a year, like where are those dogs going to go?
That's like a dog per 100 people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They just run wild. There are already dogs out there.
Yeah.
I lived in a town where dogs probably outnumbered people. Like, actually, wild cats definitely outnumbered people.
Yeah, I just think it's either so. That's a boatload of dogs. So I'm in favor of this program.
So I will say what's going to happen with dogs is they're mostly just going to die. Dogs aren't very good at living on their own. You introduce.
Well, yeah, but then they get into like roving dog packs of Chihuahuas and stuff. Mostly
they're gonna listen. Seriously though, they're going to die. Unlike cats, cats have a pretty good shot of living. You know, like I said, the
Yeah,
town,
cats are one of the best predators ever.
the town I lived in, cats, like wild stray cats, literally outnumbered people. Like my cat is from a litter where all the rest of them are strays.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I would say I'm in favor of free spay and neuter regardless. Like if the city wants to offer it, don't income restrict it. Just make it free, because it doesn't actually cost that much to do anyway.
It says $200 to $800.
What?
That's what the quoted price was.
Huh.
I believe it. I mean, somebody's gonna make their money.
I think
All
it was like $45 when we got our dog.
Well, maybe
spayed.
it was like a back alley spade.
What we need to do is just line all the animals up and just start doing them in a row. Just scoop a next,
Yeah.
slice a next.
All right. Jeez. So so this is interesting, Trevor, I think. So Ohio State, they're doing alcohol sales now. They made actual profit $1.35 million this year, up from $1.16 million last year. And apparently there were more people who were arrested this year, but I don't know why people care about that at all. So
Because people get trashed and get arrested.
yeah, who cares? Just like it's like a non-issue unless they're like shooting people or something. So basically, the OSU is making money from selling alcohol in the stadiums. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I don't particularly care. I think it's a good thing.
Yep. So moving on, the city. So do you remember Hopper Cart? We talked about that.
Yep.
So apparently they were successful enough that the city is poised to allow micro transit golf carts as like actual vehicles that people can use.
As opposed to macro transit.
Yeah. So that's a thing. And
Well, at least the city is learning from successes, even if they're not the cities.
yeah. Let's see. And last but not least,
yes. So we mentioned marijuana earlier in the context of Canada, but as I'm sure many of you have heard, we're looking at another push for full legalization of marijuana in the state of Ohio.
nice.
So for those of you who don't know about the last push, I think it was issue 10 at the time. Pretty terrible bill. Only because it basically restricted marijuana legalization down to like 10.
Yeah, so it was like some people, like a few people would be able to grow it and sell it and all this stuff, and everybody else was screwed. It was really stupid.
Yeah, there were basically 10 growers, and they didn't really change the they didn't change at all the like laws around trafficking and whatever. So
yeah.
So essentially it was a legalization bill that I think was basically cooked up by the Republicans, and Kasich in particular, to sort of ward off more liberal marijuana legalization bills like this one. So this bill would actually allow for full, like you would be able to grow your own marijuana.
Yeah, which I say is good. I mean, you can make your own beer, so I don't know. I'm a big fan of legalizing. I think it would ultimately be good for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And I voted against the other bill. I might vote for this one if it actually sees the light of day, which there's a good chance it won't.
Right.
Man, I remember how mad people were when that bill failed. There were a lot of people who were just in the I don't care, I want weed camp, and I really can't I can't abide that mentality. You can't people were making the case that, perfect was the enemy of good in this case, but I don't think that was true at all. I think what you had was a shitty system which was going to embed itself and make Ohio in the long term one of the most
worst states.
One of the most restrictive states as far as marijuana.
That's absolutely what was going to happen.
And we completely dodged that bullet.
Yeah, I completely agree. I voted against it too, I think.
All right. Well, you ready to move on to debate and discussion?
Yep. So Apple recently announced that as part of their new Swift coding initiative, and so this is related to a story we covered a couple months ago with Ohio State becoming one of the like Apple design centers, and then giving everybody free
Apple
free
stuff.
Mac, and then teaching them stuff too. But they're planning on partnering with the city of Chicago for a new Swift coding initiative. And for apparently there's 500,000 students in the city of Chicago, which I think is crazy. But they're planning on offering up creating Swift coding clubs. So Swift's the programming language for our non programming listeners. So
if you don't program, why do you even listen? Turn this off right now.
No, don't be like that, Trevor. We'll teach them how to program poorly, but
maybe you.
Yeah. Okay. So they are doing. So they're going to teach people to use Swift, which is used to write software for iOS and Mac OS and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's a cool initiative, and I'm in favor. So I like when companies are actually trying. I'm not criticizing anybody who doesn't, I guess, but I like that when companies are trying to, get more people to write code, get more people to involved and be involved in the technology community. What I will say though is I think we need more of this type of work in cities like Detroit or Cleveland or Chicago's doing all right, more or less, and I think it's great that they're starting there. But I would just like to see some more of this going on in other cities too. So
I will say, keep in mind why they're doing this though, and probably partially why they're doing it in Chicago. It's the same reason that back in the late 90s, Windows just went like crazy, donating tons and tons of computers to schools, right? Ultimately, they want to get people on their platform, and so developers, when they're growing up, what they used the entire time they were growing up was Apple stuff, right? That's the goal here.
Yeah, which I think is a great future though. So I'm totally in favor of that anyway.
Cool, Eric. So what do we have next?
Okay. So it's a short story, but it's from The Economist, and it's just like The Economist Explained. So they just do like a little segment they just kind of give you some interesting facts or something that's going on. Which so I really like The Economist actually, but I'm too poor to afford it.
Or sorry, not paper journal.
Yeah. So the title is Why Forests Are Spreading in the Rich World, and then the long and short of it is that South America and Sub-Saharan Africa are cutting down all their forests, but in the United States, Australia, Europe, etc., the forests that were destroyed are recovering because I think we're kind of like done industrializing more or less. Yeah, and then so let me give you one quick fact. So and this I actually think this is crazy. I couldn't even believe this when I first read it, but apparently Ireland was 1% covered in forest in 1922, and now it's I guess 11%, and then it's supposed to be the government has a goal to push it to 18% by the 2040s, but 1% of the land was covered in forest.
It's not surprising at all.
How is that not surprising?
So from an absolute standpoint, for like most of modern history, the U.S. cut down and deforested more than any other country.
Yeah.
But from a relative perspective, nobody beat the UK.
Yeah.
Man, the UK they saw a tree like 2 miles away.
They were like, that looks like it might be a nice ship.
They would march over to it with an axe. No, but seriously, if you look at pictures of say World War II era, anywhere in the UK, it's just all plains basically.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always that way. I mean, so it kind of was, right? It's never been the most heavily forested country, but they really ramped up and took every tree possible because shipping wood is really expensive when you're in an island. So,
so the article continues to go on, and they kind of talk about some of the reasons for the growth. But they had the last paragraph I thought was kind of funny. So they say the greening of the West, and I'm quoting our economist, the greening of the West does not delight everyone. Farmers complain that the land is being taken out of use by generously subsidized tree plantations. Oh, I don't know. So the farmers are upset that that they're not getting the same subsidies, even though they're getting a bunch of subsidies for growing food. But
to be fair, I think, when it comes down to it, if the land can be used for both tree growth and food production, it's probably more useful to grow food on it.
Yeah, it depends on the food. We don't need more wheat. I'll take more oranges and apples though. But
wheat feeds the world, man.
Yeah, but we don't have we don't have any sort of issues with producing it. It's we overproduce it. It's not it's not a, it's like a non, it's the issue is making too much of it. It's not that we don't have enough.
I mean, I think if we should get rid of anything, we should get rid of a lot of our corn that's being produced.
Yeah, corn too. Yeah.
I mean, part of the problem with that though is first of all, it's being used for ethanol production.
And then the other problem is it's being used in everybody's favorite called high fructose corn syrup. So
I mean, those are the two big, I guess, concerns with corn. And also, it's really just not that healthy for you.
Yeah.
I think corn is mostly monosaccharides. So corn is mostly sugar, which just isn't that great for you personally.
Right. So the question I want to pose to you, Trevor, is what do you think? So this is like, this is a debate and discussion. So what do you think we can do to encourage not only continued forest growth and that type of thing in the United States or elsewhere, but in countries like Brazil or sub-Saharan in sub-Saharan Africa or something like that? Because I think there's a huge problem with rainforest deforestation. So I'm wondering if you have any solutions that I can criticize.
Kill 90% of the population.
Hey, I'm not in favor of killing them, but I am in favor of a big baby reduction. I talked about that before, right? I think we should have
one-child policy.
Well, I think we should have 1 billion people. I think that's a nice solid number. So,
yeah, I don't know. This J curve has to die eventually, though, or I mean, it's going to die eventually.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, right? There's only so many resources. But if you want my serious thoughts outside of culling the vast majority of the populace, like the obvious solution is just, I think a lot of plant biologists will tell you this, at least the ones I've interacted with from P bio classes or the plant biology books I've read have sort of gone that direction. I think if you want to plant trees, if you want to see more trees, the best way to do it is to plant trees.
Well, I mean, I get that, but I don't feel like that solves. I don't know. I mean, I feel kind of helpless and hopeless because things like the rainforest are being destroyed. What was it like? Either last week or the week before, Trump was like, "Hey, we're gonna I want to open up this this public park or national park or whatever to sell the land and all this kind of stuff." And it's like we're getting too many people. The population's growing too much. We're running out of. I feel like we're running out of space, and they're cutting down the rainforest. Global warming's happening, and it's like you're just watching a train on its way to hit you right in the face, and nobody's really.
The U.S. doesn't have these problems. The U.S. doesn't have a space problem. The U.S. doesn't have a deforestation problem. And I don't think we really will. We did have one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, circa 1920s, we were chopping every tree possible that was convenient, near a railway. But I think it's the countries that are really ruining their.
What is it, like Madagascar or something there's some country in I'm pretty sure it's Madagascar. They cut down 80% or 90% of the forest, and now nobody. I mean, there's no point in the country anymore, really, because there's no tourism. They can't grow anything that's good anymore. They're losing the unique biodiversity that was there. I mean, you would think that they would think this through. Hey, Americans or Europeans or whoever, Japanese people, I don't know, they would love to come to Madagascar and see all this really cool stuff, and then we can charge them a lot of money, and we can make money protecting and preserving this the environment here on top of doing X, Y, and Z. But then they chop it all down, and you get way more money industrializing. Yeah, maybe
you're in some cases you're jumping the GDP by 10 times of the entire country. That's huge.
Yeah.
And for every single country that has ever existed, industrialization has always been worth it.
Yeah. I mean, so I understand the incentives, but I just feel we know this. We know that these countries want to do this for rational reasons. I'm not judging I'm not judging Madagascar for wanting to industrialize. It's just if no humans live there, that'd be pretty great. If no humans lived in, the Amazon, that would be great. We don't need 10 billion people on this planet. So
I mean, humans have lived there forever, though.
Yeah, but they haven't lived in industrialized societies where they're chopping down everything to make rice patties or whatever.
I will. I
grow
mean,
weed or whatever it is.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go to war with them?
Well, I'm not suggesting anything like
you
that.
gonna-
I'm just saying like maybe we can come up with some sort of.
You're going to subsidize their country so they don't industrialize?
I mean, like
Left to their own devices, every single nation
Sure.
follows the same pattern.
Sure. I mean, I don't know exactly what the solution is. I'm just saying it's a problem, and I think it's a pretty big problem. But this article just kind of sparked that. I just kind of had like an existential crisis, like, oh man, it's gonna suck in like, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, and everything sucks because we just destroyed the entire environment, and now everybody wants to move to the United States because maybe we didn't. And
I was gonna say, be glad you live in the U.S.
yeah, and that's the thing. And then people want to increase like the immigration rate, and it's like, no, I don't want more people here. I want fewer people here. I don't, and it's not an immigrant thing. Like if we could have like, if we could just like reduce like the number of people who already here, and then like maybe we could bring in like immigrants or something like that. That'd be cool. But I don't want more people here. I want fewer people here because I want to protect the land and the biodiversity, and keep this planet from turning into a big pile of crap.
You know what I've thought is an interesting idea that I'm tentatively in favor of?
What?
And this is pretty radical.
Okay.
So instead of us offering tax incentives for people to have children, we offer tax disincentives, and
Yeah.
we charge you more for having more children.
Oh man, so the first time I actually heard of that was did you ever read Ender's Game?
No.
Oh, you missed out. It was like a great book, but and then Ender's Game was okay, but like looking in hindsight, but the follow-up books like Xenophobia and Speaker for the Dead and all that kind of stuff. Oh, I'm like about to go reread those because I thought they were so great. Even though I guess the author's kind of a giant jerk, but
How so?
or I think he's like homophobic or something
I
like that.
see.
But whatever. I mean, I can still appreciate his work. I mean, I appreciate Tom Cruise in movies sometimes, like Vanilla Sky or something like that. But
Right.
so yeah, so in the book, so Ender is like this like guy or kid or whatever. He like saves the world more or less. I don't want to spoil it for you though. You should just go read it. But his family, what they did is like if you had more than 2 kids, like your next kid, there was like a huge tax incentive or whatever, and then like the military could like take them. So the military was just like, yeah, we want this kid, he's really smart, blah blah blah. And then like they would so if the kids, and then they just like were pressed into like military service more or less. So I'm in favor of huge tax disincentives to have kids. I mean, it should be really expensive. I don't like I just don't know like why you would ever be against this. Like
Actually, thinking about it, I do see a big problem with it. And the problem with it is that the countries that need these tax disincentives are also the countries that will not pass. Like this isn't a huge deal for the U.S. Honestly, I
get it. Like the U.S. is in a mostly fine position. I just want to prevent the oncoming tide, if you will.
I mean, China, India, Indonesia, or sorry, not China. I mean, China.
Well, China, yeah.
China maybe makes the top 5, but the big 3 are Indonesia, India.
Bangladesh,
I wouldn't even say Bangladesh. I'd say as far as population growth, absolute population growth, Indonesia, India, and Brazil are all really scary.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. Oh, actually, so get this. Well, this is just the rate. That's not
Yeah, rates not as
Yeah.
big a deal because like the Vatican City could like triple their population, no problem.
right. Yeah, what is it like? Nigeria, I think, is one of the other like big time, like they have way too many people. I don't know. Like, I mean, stop having kids. So I do have I guess some rates, or maybe these are raw numbers. So the top countries in order of expected increase in population between 2010 and 2015. Number 1 is India, 467 million freaking people, dude.
Yeah.
No way. What? No way, man.
I told you.
Nigeria, I was right about Nigeria. 231 million. Pakistan, 101 million. Tanzania, 93 million. The United States, 93 million. No. The DR Congo, 83. Ethiopia, 62. The Philippines, 62. Uganda, 61. Kenya, 56. Only one of those countries on that entire list can even remotely handle that, and that's the United States. And I do not want 93 million more people here. I want 93 million less people here.
This is in how many years?
Between 2010 and 2050. Now, I will say, this is just one source, so who knows? So we can find some other sources, I guess.
I'm really surprised the U.S. number is that high.
Dude, It's not good. I just don't I just do not. I don't like it. I don't like. People should be a lot more worried about this, I think, because okay, so even imagine 93 million people, more people in Columbus, or not in Columbus because that'd be insane, but in the United States, where are you going to put 93 million more people? So I mean, let's say the city of Columbus,
California. Let's put them all in California.
yeah, and they already have a housing crisis. Like, what the heck do you think they're going to do? Like, what if you doubled the population of California? What if you even added 10 million more people in California? Where would you possibly put these people? There's no water. You can't put them in. I mean, you can't put them in Southern California. You're going to put them in freaking San Francisco.
Let's be honest. The water crisis is mostly nonsense. Residential use of water is like 11%.
It's not the residential problem, I guess, but still it's an increased strain that you just can't. So you could put them out west, I guess. You could put them in like Colorado or something, but then I want to retire there, so that's not going to work. So
looking out for number one, I see.
Yeah. But no, really though, I just don't see it. Like, even like, what if you had like 300,000 more people in Columbus? Where are you going to put them? I think the projected population growth for Columbus is probably in 40 years would probably be around 1 million people, I would think.
Hey, Eric, guess where we're going to put them? In the suburbs outside of 270.
Yeah, and that's going to be stupid. Okay. So, anyway,
don't you want Columbus to grow?
I do, but not. No, actually, I don't. I want it to consolidate. That's what I want. I want the physical city itself to grow because of consolidation, because I want more people getting closer and closer together. Not on top of each other, but close. Like, I want everything to be a German village.
Should we just ball everything up inside 270?
Yeah.
Would that please you?
Yeah, that'd be great. And then you just have 270 as like the racetrack if you need to like get, like, if you want to get from the south to north side, or I don't know. Who knows?
I just got a great idea, Eric. We'll build a wall around 270.
Yeah. Make Columbus great again.
Oy vey.
But you have to admit, man, that's concerning. So I'll put them in Russia, I guess, but nobody wants to go there.
I mean, Russia's actually, if global warming keeps it up, Russia and Canada are real winners.
Yeah.
Like, so you know the steppe, right?
Yeah, and we're close to Canada here in Ohio, so we kind of win.
Historically, nothing has ever been able to grow in the steppe, but if global warming, I mean, if the rate that I guess temperature is rising continues,
yeah,
in 30, 40 years,
and it probably will because we're dumb.
The steppe is going to be prime real estate,
yeah,
and Russia is going to be in a much stronger geopolitical position,
yeah,
which means
they're going to want more people.
That is as funny as it is. Russia basically has nothing, like Russia has nothing to lose and everything to gain from global warming.
Eventually the new superpower is going to be Canada and Russia and like the Norwegian countries maybe.
I mean, it's funny, but they like global warming is definitely to Russia's advantage. I mean, that's just a fact. All right, so want to move on to the next story?
Yeah.
Before Putin comes and kills us for revealing the big plan.
His plan, yeah.
So next up, Eric, we have a bill that's recently passed the House and is looking likely to pass the Senate. Cool. This will make a few of our listeners happy, I'm sure. Concealed carry reciprocity is
so what does that mean? Okay. I mean, I know what those words mean together, but what's the bill mean?
All right, so essentially right now in the U.S., if you get a concealed carry permit, it does not necessarily cross state lines. It can,
right, which is annoying.
There are certain states. I think there are 14 states currently which are reciprocal with each other, which means if you can conceal carry in one, you can conceal carry in the other.
Yeah.
But the majority of states, that's not the case, and in some states, it's nearly impossible to conceal carry.
Yeah.
And by some states, I mean you can probably guess the three.
Yeah. Massachusetts, New Jersey, California.
Not Massachusetts.
Really?
Yeah.
New York?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I was close. I mean, Massachusetts probably.
I mean, you know how it is. The city, unfortunately, dictates the politics of the entire state.
Well, now I don't like the city dictating the policies of the entire state, but I'm also not. I am a big fan of local government governs best.
I mean, I think it makes more sense for the city to be a state of its own, really.
Yeah, I see. That's the thing, man. So we were just talking about this whole like getting less people. Like, I want to return to city states. That's what I want. I want like, some city states around the Great Lakes region. I want like New York City to be like its own city state, and then like we're all like maybe we're under this like big umbrella of like friendliness. But that's what I want. I I want huge forests between like Columbus and then like I don't want Philadelphia or Pittsburgh really because I don't really like either city. So I want like a huge forest between Columbus and
Something
like, New
about
York
this
City, and
feels
then,
like
one train that like you just hop on the train and you just go through there. We don't need these big dumb airplanes.
something about this feels like a slightly dystopian sci-fi novel.
Oh no, it's so like good dystopia though.
Good dystopia.
Yeah,
Good
it's
dystopia.
Eric's good dystopia. Yeah.
All right. So we've definitely drifted. So anyways, it's looking like the Republicans are going to pass this bill, which would allow concealed carry reciprocity across 50 states, which means if you get your concealed carry permit in Ohio, you're allowed to conceal carry in New Jersey.
So here's a question. So if a state says like basically no to concealed carry for maybe I don't know if they can or can't, but let's just say they do. Does that mean that if it passes, if it actually gets signed into law that if you get a concealed carry license, California would have to accept it, but California could also not issue those to any people in California?
Yeah, correct.
I'm a fan of that as long as because I do think the states should get to decide. Like if you live in New Jersey and you think that people should not be able to concealed carry, then I mean that's to me I want the states deciding that.
No, here's the thing though.
I do want convenience too.
Here's the thing: those California people could still go out of state, get a concealed carry, and it would be perfectly legal for them to conceal carry in California.
See, I disagree with that because. Oh, actually, are you sure they can? Because I'm pretty sure you have to be a resident. Well, maybe it depends on where you are, but I think you should have to be like if you're a resident of California and you have a California address, like you live there, then you shouldn't be able to go to Nevada, get a concealed carry license, and subvert the California law.
You're probably right on that, but what I'm saying is like they cannot stop you from concealed carrying if it has been issued.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
Which is what this bill would allow.
Yeah. I'm sure the California them are all up in arms about it, but I think it's a pretty fair bill.
Yeah, I mean, I think the vast majority of the states don't care or are in favor of it, right?
Yeah,
because it just loosens a convenience or inconvenience rather. All right, so for our last story, we have. Could you remind me again?
It's the clickbait.
Yes. Okay. So, have you heard of okay, fine. All right. So for our last story, I got a question for you, Eric. Have you ever heard of a website called Cracked?
Yeah, it's bad.
What about BuzzFeed?
The worst.
So, how would you feel if I said that Cracked, BuzzFeed, and other sort of listicle focused, clickbaity, attention grabbing websites weren't doing so hot right now?
What I would tell you, Trevor, is that I would trade 81 million people coming to the United States to see both of those companies trashed, completely out of business.
Well, the good news is, sorry about that.
I might get both.
The good news is. Yeah, your dream might be a reality in both cases, but Cracked looks like it's already going under. Cracked, from what it looks like, I mean, you can't know the inside baseball of the company, right? But they hired pretty much all their high paid writers, and it looks like they're not going to be in business much longer.
Good. It's garbage. It's just garbage. So speaking of which, not to interrupt, but apparently Twitter has a new actual like feature called like the tweet storm. So it's where you actually do like the tweet storm because they used to be limited to 140 characters. Now it's limited to 240. But you can actually like create like a series of tweets and do like a tweet storm. It's just like it's the worst possible thing Twitter could have done in terms of like not being a giant piece of crap company.
Yeah, it's like let's remove our only.
It's like ultra clickbait now.
It's our only unique selling proposition.
Yeah. But maybe we should just start a new Twitter. And just have it be 140 characters.
Oh, you mean like everyone else, like Gab, like Mastodon? There are a lot of Twitter alternatives. It's really easy to make.
True.
Like there are tutorials that are like, hey, this is how you make Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not. It doesn't make sense that they have as many employees as they do. Their product's really simple.
Yeah, we should have. I think we should make like a Columbus Twitter. So I've always had these ideas. I think like. So we should have like
we should have a Facebook for cats.
No, not that. But we should have. Like local social media where you actually you'd actually give me your driver's license. Like I verify that you actually live here and then you can be part of the platform. That's what I think we need more of.
Yeah, I need proof of residence. I need your social security number. I need your birth certificate.
Yeah.
And then you can sign up to the social media platform.
Yeah,
thands.
That'd be great.
But anyways, like I was saying, Cracked is going under. BuzzFeed just unemployed. I got laid off for furloughed.
They just unemployed them.
About 50.
I mean, people. I guess that's actually right use of the word. Maybe. Yeah.
So they just fired about 50 people basically. I think Vice also, who's getting really clickbaity. I mean, they used to do good journalism, but they're getting really clickbaity.
Yeah.
They had to let an entire like location go. I think it was like their San Francisco location.
Yeah. Well, it's probably. I mean,
So you're
it's
seeing-
too expensive anyway. So
You're seeing a lot of clickbait media basically just go under. How do you feel about that, Eric?
feel great. I'd like to see that happen more.
I can't believe I'm reporting on this. I've just had this feeling that this is just becoming more and more and more the case.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Well,
a
maybe
little,
people instead of doing clickbait, they listen to our high quality, high investigative journalism podcast, and then they're like, "Well, we don't need this stuff anymore."
and by high quality investigative journalism, you mean we find good sources and then do a shitty job paraphrasing them, right?
I'd say we do a marginal job. I don't know.
I mean, we're somewhere between The Economist and BuzzFeed in that we read The Economist and then
we
have
talk like we're on BuzzFeed. I'm cool with that.
yeah. All right, that's all I had for that story. So, ready to move on to the feature?
Let's do it. All right, Trevor. So in national news, and this affects people living in Columbus in a good way in some sense. I don't know for sure if it's good in terms of like the entire atmosphere. But so we wanted to talk about the Republican tax bill. So we have an article from the New York Times. They basically point out who's getting tax cuts, who's not, and some other interesting like line by line like things that they're expecting to happen. So I was going to go through those, and then we could just talk about the tax bill overall. So to start with, so the first thing, and this isn't too, I guess, controversial maybe, but nearly everyone who takes the standard deduction gets a tax cut. So for our listeners who are 17 years old and never done taxes, or our listeners who are 23 or 24 and don't have jobs, with this, so normally for most people, when you do your taxes, you take what's called the standard deduction. You just deduct yourself, more or less. Like you don't itemize, like I spent this on this, or I'm trying to get a deduction for, my grandma live, like, our family grandma like lived with us, or
you make a bunch of charitable donations. So basically, if you don't have like a circumstance where you're being
like a small business owner, or
I would say
self-employed, or
if you don't live a lifestyle where you're significantly more giving, or you have significantly higher expenses for whatever reason than most people.
Right.
Then you take the standard deduction, which is actually pretty huge. It's for most people. It's, unless you have kids, it's the largest, I guess,
deduction.
Deduction or rebate you get.
So the Senate bill will, right now it's $12,000 for an individual, and $24,000 for, or it's $6,000 for an individual and $12,000 for married couples, and they're planning on doubling that to $12,000 for an individual, $24,000 for married couples. And so, generally speaking, most middle-class households will get a tax cut in the 2018 bill. However, I think it's worth mentioning, and this is going to end up being kind of the meat of what we end up discussing and probably agreeing on, is that people who who deduct state and local taxes from their federal taxes will more or less lose out. So for people like us who, like, we would do the standard deduction, and then we would probably also deduct our state taxes and local taxes from our federal tax bill. But what we would end up doing in this situation is kind of just not doing that deduction, or not getting the benefits of that deduction, which I don't think for us will make a lot of difference. However, there are some states, California, who
don't forget California,
who have, or New York, or Massachusetts,
or California,
or California, who have very, very high state and local taxes, and now you're not going to be able to deduct those from your federal taxes.
Hey, Eric,
what?
56%. San Francisco top marginal is 56%.
Yeah,
you get to take home less than half of what you make.
Yeah, which is,
if you include like healthcare and stuff that are taxes that your employer covers for you.
Yeah.
If you make like if you make like or let's say you're worth, like, as a worker, you're worth like $400,000.
Yeah.
Your take home, it ends up being less than 100 in San Francisco.
Yeah. No, it's like just raw cash.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So that's one of the big points of contention, and one of the reasons that publications such as the New York Times are very freaking out about it is because, I mean, frankly, it's not good for for those states. However, I don't think we're going to have a disagreement here. I don't understand why you would ever be able to, like, why would you deduct state and local taxes from federal taxes? Like, they're just getting tax cuts for no reason. Like, just lower the state and local taxes. And if that doesn't work, then, there's no sense in, a state like Ohio paying for, paying for these.
So the reality of this is that essentially states like Ohio, or states, any state with low taxes, low local and low state taxes, are subsidizing states where they're high.
Yeah.
If you live in San Francisco, you're the most your taxes are the most subsidized in the country.
Yeah. Now I will say this though, that states such as California, on average, do pay more federal taxes. Like they are not on the whole in terms of like benefits, like welfare recipients, for example. Like when you take the entire tax pie, if you will, and then you kind of give it back to everybody, people in California do pay into the pie versus take from the pie. Like a state like Mississippi, for example, like on average, the state as a whole receives more tax money than it pays, but that doesn't excuse, that deductions, federal and local deductions for taxes. It's just a nonsense thing.
Yeah, that happens though because the average pay in California is much, much higher than Mississippi.
Right.
Mississippi is a terrible state in many regards, including having the 49th highest unemployment in the country.
Right.
Out of 50.
Yeah, they do have some problems that they need to solve. So.
Right, but what I'm saying is that like this is inevitable if you have all your high income earners in like two states.
Yeah.
Then of course they're gonna pay more than they take out.
Yep.
That doesn't mean so if you sort of do the thing where you're like, of course they should be able to deduct because they pay more in than they take out, then you're basically just applying virtue to having wealth. Like that's the kind of mentality,
right?
I think.
So so with that being said, the where was it? So there has been some argument that people are saying that this tax bill disproportionately, because it's a Republican tax bill, it primarily affects Democratic states, if you will, states Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, what have you, that it's like kind of going against them. Now, that could be true. That could be part of the motivation the Republicans have. However, most economists, Democrat, Republican, Independent, other, actually also agree with this move in principle. It doesn't make sense to deduct local and state taxes from federal taxes. So I just wanted to point
I think
that
the
out.
biggest part of the tax bill where you see that complaint is actually the fact that they're reducing the maximum deduction you can make on the interest of a mortgage.
Yeah, so we can get into that here in a second, but so we can just start now. So that's the other thing. So the federal government, what they're planning on doing is capping the amount of so if you have a mortgage for, say, I think it's the limit is like $500,000, you can no longer like if it's more than that, you can't deduct your mortgage interest rate. So first of all, why are people who can't afford homes, i.e. renters, why are they subsidizing people buying houses? That doesn't make any sense. And two, if you can afford a $500,000 house, why are you able to write off your mortgage interest in taxes? That doesn't make any sense. So unfortunately, economists almost universally agree that is a stupid thing.
But you don't understand. All the comments I saw on Hacker News about these poor guys who only make $200,000 a year.
Yeah, they can't afford their home.
They won't be able to afford their home now because their salary only makes sense in the context of them being able to take off like a third of their income because they paid half their money in taxes and the other 40% is going towards their mortgage. Jesus.
Right. Yeah, so what was funny about that, that in particular was it was kind of like a bunch of rich people realized that they were rich, and it's like, you can afford a $500,000 house, you're rich. It doesn't matter if you live in California or otherwise. It makes you rich. So
it must be pretty weird to look in the mirror and then realize you're the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, especially when they're like trying to champion the cause of like the common man, and it's like you guys do realize that you're like the enemy in that little context. They're like you're the rich bourgeoisie, like you said.
Hey Eric,
so
they're the first on the wall.
Yeah.
when the revolution happens.
Okay. So yeah, I never understood the mortgage, interest rate deduction. On top of that, the other bad thing I think we do as a country is we encourage home ownership as your like retirement, as like your big investment and all that kind of stuff. I think that is a terrible idea because first, homes aren't very liquid, so it's not like you can just sell your home tomorrow and get the cash. Two, home prices, although I think they generally are going to tend to rise, they do on occasion dip. Like, I mean, maybe you thought that you were going to live in Detroit and like retire with this house, and I don't even know what you would do with that. Like, yeah, you have this house worth a lot of money. What are you going to do? Just sell it? And then the rate of return is not nearly as good as investing in like stock markets and mutual funds. So I think getting rid of the interest rate deduction and trying to I don't want to discourage people from owning homes, because I think in general it could be a good idea, but that should not be your primary like asset. Like, you should be investing in stocks more or less.
I've been chomping at the bit waiting for you to finish for like 2 minutes now.
Yeah.
'Cause here's what I gotta say. Buying a home is a terrible investment. If you do it as an investment, you're an idiot, and you should email me so that I can read your email and make fun of you on the show.
Yeah.
Do not buy a home as an investment.
Nope.
It's a place to live, and it's an alternative to renting that sort of locks you down in it sort of slightly ameliorates the income hit and sort of standardizes it versus renting, or I mean destandardizes. So basically, you're destandardizing your costs because homeownership costs are a lot more I guess spiky, right? Like if you have to repair the roof, that's like 10 grand, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And some people don't have to do that because they live in condos or whatever. But then you have HOA fees. But
yeah, I mean, regardless, somehow.
Yeah. So there are always going to be these peaks and valleys, but it's a slightly lower cost of ownership versus renting. But it is not an investment vehicle at all. And do not go in with the mindset that worst case you'll sell your house. That is a really bad worst case.
Yeah, that's an awful worst case. So I do hope that. I for some reason the American dream's always been like owning a house and stuff, and I don't have I own a place, like, and it made sense for me to buy that for my own reasons, but for the vast majority of people, do not buy a house, like, unless you can even like maybe pay half of it up front. Like, just don't buy a house. And then even if you could pay for half of it up front, with today's low interest rates, you can get a loan from Quicken Loans. With the low interest rates, it doesn't even make sense to you should put as little money down on a house as possible, and instead take that same money and pay off any sort of debts you have. And then if you don't have any debts because you're lucky, take that money and then put it into your an IRA, because you're going to get a higher return from a mutual fund than you are from a house. Like, you're not like it just doesn't make any sense. We need to discourage that.
Even long-term investments are a much better option. So
yeah.
So outside of RIA, right? Taxes on long-term investments are only 15%. Your house is not going to accrue 7% in value per year. So that's not going to happen.
Right.
So, don't treat it as an investment vehicle.
It's a very emotional purchase.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm gonna stick with renting until the market goes bad.
Yeah. So the final piece I have here, and it's kind of funny because we were talking about this, and I did not intend this to end up happening, but families with children generally get a bigger tax cut. No, I don't want families with children getting a bigger tax cut. Maybe if they already have kids, but I want people who are about to have kids, who are thinking about kids. If they're going to have more than, let's say they have more than two, nobody can have more than 2 kids. I don't want those people getting any sort of, it shouldn't be any sort of tax cuts. It should be expensive to raise kids because you have to pay for all this stuff. And if you have more than 2 kids, God help you, you should be taxed to hell, more or less.
I'm not in favor of like limiting children amounts, but I do think it's got to be punitive to some extent. You have to.
I'm not saying you have to like by law. I'm just saying it should be like a huge tax problem. Like, oh well, you're not going to get any benefits, and like, well, that's just too bad.
I think there are two conflicting ideologies here. I think there are people who think that we should reward it because it sort of strengthens the country, which I'm not a fan of. Right? I don't really care that much about strengthening the total population. But sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
And then
we don't need more people because we have nuclear bombs.
And
so like this whole national defense thing, like we don't.
Well, so even national economy, people by and large are producers, and so this strengthens your economy,
right?
And then,
well, see, and that's a problem too, because there's this whole idea that you have to constantly grow. We don't need the economy to grow every year. We need the economy to work for everyone. Like, I mean, because it ends up being so. I mean, if you take it to its extent, well, everybody in the world should just move to the United States, and we'll just have the GDP of the whole world. But like, where does that leave you?
Or just take like the talented people, because I mean, some people are negative
right,
impact.
which is a good thing for us, but not
keep
the world,
keep in mind this is a like thought experiment, right? You just take the producers, and then you leave the rest of the dregs to die or whatever.
Right.
All right. Is that all we have for the tax bill, though?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot of other details, I guess, in the bill, more or less, but I don't know if we want to get into those today. I want to wait and see what they actually propose, because there still has to be a reconciliation between the House and the Senate for what the actual bill's going to be.
Yep.
So because there are some pretty wild differences. Like, for example, the Senate wants, I think, I could be getting these two confused, but the Senate or the House wants to have like the mortgage interest rate deduction be at $500,000, and the other wants it to be at $1 million for the value of the property. So there are some differences, in those things, which are worth discussing. But at this point, we don't know what the actual bill's going to be yet until they do that reconciliation. So.
Yeah, so we can rope back around when they've sort of finalized it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it then, Eric.
Yeah, that's it for us. So,
all right. Well, this has been Columbus This Week. I thank you for listening to us. Please join us next week.